Hi there, Nora. My name is Ellen. I'll be correcting these essays for you. So I'm very happy to see that you've begun writing your essays as part of the course. So why don't we take a look at what you have written straight away. The first one is about schools and whether they should be more entertaining. Let's see what you wrote about this. Education is a fundamental component of one's life. Some people believe that schools are solely for the purpose of teaching, while others believe that classrooms should be more entertaining environments. I believe that educational institutions should provide more engaging lesson ideas in order to increase children's socializing and classroom performance. Okay, this is lovely. It's really well written. It's the perfect structure, perfect length. You've got these three sentences here. It's all really, really good. I have one minor, I don't know if I should say it's a minor concern. I have one concern, and it's about your choice of vocabulary here. More engaging lesson ideas. Now, let's take a look once again at what the task is asking us about. So, entertaining is the word here. That's the key word. What do we mean by entertaining? We mean fun. We mean joyful, joyous, amusing, funny. These are things that entertain us. Okay? So that's what they're asking about. All right. So you could think about like play during the classroom or games during the classroom. There are lots of things you could think about. Your choice here of the word engaging, while it's a lovely word, I like it, um, it's a little broader and doesn't really quite capture this spirit of amusement, of fun that the word entertainment carries with it. Okay, now the reason why I'm making such a big deal about this is because this is your position statement. And um, this is essentially the key idea of your essay, and it's your position. So this is what you're going to develop throughout. And so I want to make sure that your vocabulary here is on point and is saying what you need it to say. So I probably would have selected a different word here that, again, really kind of reflects this idea of entertainment. All right. So I believe that educational institutions should provide more enjoyable lesson ideas or more fun-filled lesson ideas. So this would be an example of some alternatives for you. Let's continue. So far, I see what I like, what I see, I like, but there's just that one little thing about that word. Let's continue. For starters, boredom has always been a major factor in one's productivity, particularly in schools. This is because a monotonous and repeated learning environment causes children to lose interest. On the other hand, entertaining activities, you don't need a comma here, you don't need the here, okay, have been found to be effective in tackling the problem with focus and attention that many learners face. For example, according to research without that A, conducted by the Finnish Ministry of Education, students who attended classes with both instructional and entertaining material outperform pupils in regular classrooms. As a result, interactive classroom entertainment can swiftly alleviate their boredom. Okay. Um, it's good. I thought it was interesting the way you started with like the problem that these academic only schools have, and then you switch sides. I don't know if I love that. We'll talk about it a little more potentially. I do want to look at your second paragraph before I make any more comments about this. Second, all right, I am going to make a comment about this. When we write second, it's because we already have a first. You don't have a first. You have for starters. Okay. So there's certain linkers that go together, like on the one hand, on the other hand. Firstly, secondly. Okay. So you when you use one, you have to use the other. You used here for starters, which admittedly felt a little informal, but it's okay. It's acceptable. I think what you could have done here is you could have had something else, like a generally or furthermore. Those would have been okay. All right, so let's try that. Furthermore, in many of today's schools, there is limited opportunity for social interaction. This is related to the fact that, get rid of that comma, due to monotonous lessons, children can sit in the same room together all day without having sufficient interaction with one another. On the contrary, here in contrast would have been better. Creating more engaging and entertaining lesson plans would be a great helper for students to know each other and eventually bring them closer. Hence, social interaction through meaningful dialogue among learners is vital to the learning process. According to a Harvard study, incorporating a range of lowercase here, incorporating a range of interactive classroom formats into the educational experience, for example, helps increase teamwork. Hence, social interaction through meaningful dialogue among learners is vital to the learning process. Why do I feel like I saw this expression elsewhere? Here it is. Vital to the learning process. That's where I saw it. So, vital to the learning process, vital to the learning process. Careful with that. You want to avoid this kind of thing. It's such a lovely expression. It's very natural and it's clearly high level. But when you repeat it, maybe you didn't realize you did it. But when you do this, it takes away from the effect of this. So be careful and try to avoid that. Okay. To sum up the examples and reasons presented, I am certain that education and entertainment regularly overlap, and when they do, we can benefit from the best of both worlds, such as tremendous enjoyment and deep learning. All right, this is lovely. I really like this. I know that I've been focusing on some of the mistakes, but on the whole, I thought your writing was at a very high level. It was very well done. I told you that I had a concern about this way, like the academics, and then you're like, okay, but if we have entertaining classes, then this is overcome. I was concerned about it, but then I saw that you did the same thing in the other paragraph. So this was very conscious. This was a conscious choice. So you were telling me, look, this is what's wrong with academic classes, but hey, if we had these entertaining classes, look how this could be overcome. So it was effective. I liked it, and that's kind of what I was waiting to see here. So I thought you did a lovely job. I thought it was very, very, very nice. Just a couple of those little things that I mentioned throughout the correction. You're definitely starting off at a very strong point here. So I'm really happy to see that. Let's take a look at the second essay about doing an enjoyable activity with a child. Some individuals believe that doing pleasurable activities with their parents rather than reading books helps children develop their creativity and other talents. I wholeheartedly agree with this strategy because children learn their motor and cognitive skills through play, especially when they are young. Perfect. To begin with, while primary school students may be eager to read, younger children in preschool are unable to focus for long periods of time because their attention span is much shorter than that of adults. Gorgeous. It's a long sentence, and usually I tell students to avoid sentences that kind of, get into that third line. But I thought you did a great job with this. It was perfect. As a result, establishing the habit of reading in children would be practically impossible for parents. According to a study conducted by Cambridge University in 2013, 90% of preschool children prefer to play with colorful toys and shapes over looking at pictures and books. This explains why children prefer to pretend and play rather than spend time reading books. Okay, so this is beautifully written. It's lovely, lovely. Grammatically, lexically, everything is good. You do have an issue with task achievement here, though. Okay, we'll talk about it. I want to see your next paragraph first, though. Second, okay, here you're doing it again. You have a second, but you never had a first. Okay. So careful with that. You want to use a different linker to connect your two paragraphs. Play encourages children to emotionally mature and gain self-confidence. There is no scientific proof that reading at a young age is beneficial to a child's development. In fact, data suggests the opposite is true. In Finland, early childhood education is centered on play. Only if a youngster expresses an interest in learning to read is this talent encouraged. Wow, you used some inversion here. That's gorgeous. Nice job. Finnish school leavers do not fall behind their international counterparts as a result of their self-directed approach. Finland was ranked 6th best in the world for reading. Okay. Despite my support for the above-mentioned non-reading strategy, I strongly advocate for including bedtime stories into a children's daily routine. Reading as a regular daytime activity, on the other hand, should be replaced with something that allows the youngster to develop other talents. Okay. So let's talk about this a little bit. I told you that I was a little concerned about task achievement. And now I want to tell you a couple of different things. So doing an enjoyable activity with a child can develop better skills and more creativity than reading. Apparently you agree. And then here You said that it develops creativity and other talents. Okay, fine. And then you said they learn their motor and cognitive skills through play. But you never actually dealt with that. You never talked about cognitive skills. You never talked about motor skills. So that's what I was expecting to read in your body paragraphs, and I did not. Instead, you made this much more theoretical. You talked about the short attention span. You said that because of that, it would be impossible for little kids to read, and they preferred to play with toys. So that's not related to anything that you told us you were going to talk about here. You see, what does the introduction do? It's basically a preface. I can't speak tonight. Sorry. It's a preface for what's going to follow. And this really doesn't link in terms of content to anything you told us here in your introduction. Okay, I was expecting to see things about creativity, about talents, about motor skills, and cognitive skills, and I didn't. Okay, you just told me about children's preferences. And then here you kind of started getting into it. You talked about emotionally maturing and self-confidence. I guess you could argue that those are skills. Okay. And then again, you're not talking to us about any skills here. They're interested in learning. They fall behind. So you're not, I mean, it's beautifully written, but it's not really covering what you're supposed to cover. So I wanted to see more of this about like developing fine motor skills, developing gross motor skills, developing creativity. What kinds of activities develop creativity? So this is what I want to see, and I didn't really see it. Okay. So as far as task achievement is concerned, I think that this would run into some problems because you just didn't develop really what you were supposed to talk about here. Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about in terms of task achievement was your conclusion. In our conclusion, we never introduce new information. Instead, what we do is we simply recap what we've talked about in our body paragraphs. So the conclusion is essentially a mirror image of the introduction. Here, you introduced new information. You suggested this thing about introducing bedtime stories. And so that was inappropriate in the conclusion. It doesn't belong here. Okay? You're not supposed to talk about anything new that you haven't focused on anywhere in your body paragraphs. So I would have left that out. And then I thought this was rather strange too. You said, I strongly advocate this despite what I said before. I wouldn't do that. This is not the time where you want to kind of, surprise your reader with something new. Okay? So those are my suggestions about the set of essays. I would like you now to go ahead and correct them. Send them back to us corrected, of course, along with a new set of essays. Don't forget also your error correction list. I didn't really find much in terms of grammar or vocabulary errors, but just the other things that we talked about. So great job with this, and I'm really looking forward to your next set of essays.